Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio.
From the missing to the mysterious mountains of Montana, it is that time of the night. The Cryptid Report with Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. Let's do this. Well, since it is your birthday tomorrow, we're going to sing some happy birthday for you here.
Oh, God.
Happy birthday, Super Duke. Happy birthday, Super Duke. Happy birthday, Dukealicious. Happy birthday, Super Duke. There you go, Duke.
Thank you. I'll be back.
Hope you have a great one, buddy.
Me too. Anybody wants to help me with that, paypal.me/World Bigfoot Central. I'm still extremely broke. And please, no applause. Just throw money. So shall we get to the Bigfoot stories, Dave?
Let's do it, buddy. Let's do it.
Man driving between WSS and Checkerboard west of Southern Lake on December 2nd, 2012, spotted a Bigfoot along the road moving at a quick pace. As the witness reports, quote, "It was about 250 to 300 yards away, and I could make it out quite well. The thing was on two legs, had very long arms that seemed to end barely above the knees. Its head was positioned as if a person were sticking their neck out, and it ran while barely moving its arms. It didn't look like it was alarmed, just as if it was just going along its way, heading back into the mountains. In scale to the trees, I'd say it was about 6.5 feet tall." Now, the BFRO report on the incident doesn't offer any details on the creature's coloring or features. Joshua Cutchin and Timothy Renner mention an odd Montana incident in the second volume of Where the Footprints End. The report comes from yours truly, me, Duke Sullivan, a Bigfoot investigator and podcast host, who had this experience in 2015. I spotted what I first thought was a tree stump with a pattern resembling a face. I intended to film the stump with my video camera as an example of pareidolia, but then noticed the expression on the stump had changed. Now then, realizing I was witnessing a Sasquatch, I elected to leave the area. And since I have the leisure right here, let me give you the rest of the story. I was heading back to my camp. I was the only person at the camp. I didn't take my usual route to go there. The wind was blowing strongly toward me, and instead of coming up the trail, I actually went up about 25 feet of cliff and across this open little glade that had a tree line on the far end of it. And on the opposite side of that, there was another little glade. And just beyond that is where my tent was set up. So by the time I got up to where this tree line was, I hadn't made any noise and there was no scent. So the Bigfoot that was on the other side of the tree line didn't know I was there. until I started coming through the tree line. He didn't have time to move anywhere, so he just plopped his butt down on the ground and pretended he was a stump. For years afterwards, I could take people up and show them the exact spot, because when he sat down, he crushed a little pine sapling, which was forever afterwards sticking out at a weird angle from him sitting his fat butt on it and crushing it. Now, I hadn't been camping there long enough to realize exactly what everything was around me and where it should all be. But so I didn't immediately remember that there shouldn't have been a stump there. And he pulled off his stump thing pretty well. I mean, he looked like a stump. And I had just come back from town, and I had watched a video on pareidolia, and I went, hey, this is a great time to shoot a video on pareidolia. There's a stump there that looks like a Bigfoot. So as I reached for my camera and I looked back at him, now the stump is grimacing at me. And the stump's expression can't change. So at that point, I became pretty well convinced that wasn't a stump. And this may be an example of mind speak, actually, because as soon as I thought to myself, hey, the expression on that stump changed, I had this other weird counter thought in my head that said, in a voice other than mine, I'm a stump. And I went, okay, you're a stump. And I took my hand off my camera and I just kept walking along my merry way, because that very insistent stump was in between me and the road. And I didn't want to make him angry. So now you know the rest of the story of why I didn't try to get any video of the very angry looking stump that was 60 feet away from me. On to the next story.
What's funny, can I just interject there for a quick second?
Sure.
This stump thing is very real.
Mm-hmm.
And they tend to, I believe they tend to use that as a natural camouflage, and I could tell you right now that that we have an incident in just about 30 miles south here where a lady was riding her horse on just a trail she'd ridden hundreds of times before, and the horse is going absolutely crazy. All right. And then all of a sudden, Duke, the stump stands up.
Oh, God.
Yeah. She said she was lucky she didn't get thrown from her horse.
I can imagine the horse probably had a little reaction to that. Oh, my God. Oh, wow.
Kidding.
I've heard a bunch of those. Actually, I had somebody that I used to have on my show a lot, Kat Hansen. She had a lot of them interacting around certain areas when she was a kid and afterwards. And she sent me a picture of one of them pretending to be a stump. And man, was he selling it. He had literally ripped off big chunks of bark off of actual stumps and had them laid on each side of him to help it look more like he was a stump. Except for the other parts that weren't bark had black hair sticking out. So if you looked close enough, you could tell. But just if you were going by at a glance, you would never think to look at it again. It would just register in your brain as that's a stump.
No kidding.
I was sitting right out in the open, broad daylight. Oh, my God. So, yeah, the old Bigfoot tactic, when in doubt, sit down, pretend you're a stump. And if the human doesn't believe you, insist to them that you're a stump. So the next one up here is from the Great Falls Tribune, which ran in an article in April 1st, 2019, issue discussing Bigfoot sightings. Apparently, the paper thought it would be funny to feature reports of the creature in its April Fool's edition. Perhaps they were taking a swipe at people who take the topic seriously. Whatever the case, the paper did report on some actual accounts of Sasquatch sightings, starting off with an account from a trucker named J.G. The man reports that he saw one of the creatures along a lonely stretch of Decker Highway at midnight in October 2006. At first, he thought he was seeing a hitchhiker, at least until it started crossing the road in front of him. As the paper reports, quote, he slammed on the brakes. The creature was at least 8 feet tall and had 8 to 10 inch long hair, almost like it was groomed. Reportedly, the driver returned to the scene the following day and measured bushes, fences, and other objects in the area to try and confirm the creature's size. Unfortunately, he found no tracks or other evidence that the Bigfoot had been in the area. A man out on a wrecker call in Phillips County in January 2011 saw a creature on Highway 191 in the C.M. Russell Wildlife Refuge. It was about 1 a.m. when the driver reached the location a mile north of the Missouri River. As he reports to the BFRO, quote, I was loading a car onto my truck when I heard a deep grunt. I turned with my flashlight and looked behind me, and almost 100 feet behind me was an upright walking creature dragging a dead elk that a car I was towing had hit down the side of a hill. It was about 40 below zero. I was cold and scared, so I loaded up and got back to town. In a follow-up interview, the witness clarified that there was a full moon on the night of his sighting that aided his view of the Sasquatch. He said the creature was probably between 7.5 to 8 feet in height with brown graying hair. Shoulders were broad. The beast had long arms with a big, square, flat face. It used only one hand to drag the elk away by the antlers. The witness shined a light on the creature, and the thing's eyes reflected like those of a deer caught in the headlights. It looked at the man briefly, then continued dragging the elk away. Kalispell's paper, the Daily Interlake, reported in its September 10, 2017 edition on Misty Alibaugh, who reported she had been tracking Sasquatch in Montana for 24 years. The Columbia Falls resident said saw a Sasquatch when she was 17 years old in 1993. She was with her parents at the time, but the elder Alabaughs didn't make a big deal of the sighting. Misty's mother gasped and asked her daughter if she had seen the hairy man crossing the road. Well, her father simply told her just to let it go, but Mary couldn't let it go. As the paper reports, quote, her father had worked backcountry logging jobs all his life and had seen some odd occurrences through the years that couldn't easily be explained. He'd been told if you leave it alone, it will leave you alone. Then Alibaugh saw it with her own eyes. It was like nothing she'd ever seen before, but she knew it was Bigfoot. There's no doubt in my mind, she said. It was on a short hill. You could see the daylight between his arms, his hair lifting in the breeze. Alibaugh continued to research the topic of Bigfoot as she grew older. While she has traveled to other regions to do field research, her main focus has been Montana, specifically the area between Kalispell and Libby, which is a great spot, and I'm not close to it, so I hope she's still doing it. Alibaugh says she has evidence she has collected over the years, including hair, blood, and stool samples, but she doesn't have the resources to have testing done. Still, she presses on and tries to take a scientific approach. Alibaugh told the Interlake, if it's what we think, it's something between prehistoric and a mountain gorilla. NBC News in Montana reported on search for Bigfoot in the state on November 1st, 2019. The news spoke with Joe Hauser, owner of the Montana Vortex and House of Mystery outside Glacier National Park. Hauser told reporters that he certainly believes in Bigfoot. As the story related, Hauser walked the ground every day. He bought the property to study the electromagnetic anomalies there, and he's the first to tell you weird things happen there. Quote, a lot of people come in totally skeptical, and then they leave and go, I don't know what's going on here, but there's definitely something going on here, Hauser said. At the attraction, he displays casts of Sasquatch footprints collected from various locations and says his interest was sparked when he first saw the famous Patterson-Gimlin film of Bigfoot in Northern California. He has also heard weird screams in 1983 that he believes were Bigfoot, but 22 years later, he had a sighting. This time, it was Avalanche Lake in Glacier Park with his son. Do you have time to go into this now?
We got 1 minute and 21 seconds.
Okay. He looked across, he was with his son, and he recalls the incident. He looks across the lake and goes, hey, Dad, there's two Bigfoot walking across the snowfield there. And sure enough, big strides, great big arm swings, arms down to their knees, and we had about a 5-minute sighting walking across the snowfield over there. Hauser told the news the creatures will knock on his house at night, and they leave signs around the property. He's seen the creatures as recently as the fall of 2018 on the trail to the Montana Vortex, and tourists have also reported seeing Bigfoot in his area. And I have not been up there to the Vortex, although I need to get up there, but I have talked to Joe quite a few times, and I have no reason to doubt him. I know other people that have been up there, and they believe him.
Seems like a scary area.
That place is really peculiar. They got one of those houses where it's like gravity is wrong, and you can walk up the wall and all kinds of weird, and it's like not an optical illusion. It's really strange. There's one place where you can stand in the trail and it looks like you're cut in half. Your upper half is over here and your lower half is over here. And there's nothing that can do that. But if you stand right there and take a picture, you get that effect from it.
Right on. Right on. Duke, hold on right there, because we are going to go to a break here at the bottom of the hour, a final break of the night. Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio continues with the Cryptid Report. When we return on Spaced Out Radio, more classic stories, encounters, people just like you. Stick around. The final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is next. Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. We call him the birthday boy around here. Good to have you with us, man.
Da-da-da-da-da-da. Tomorrow's my birthday. Da-da-da. Actually, it's that day right now. Now that he looks at the clock, oh yeah, it's actually my birthday. Hey, happy birthday to me. So anyway, getting back to my buddy Joe Hauser up there at the Montana Vortex. Joe says, we have lots of sightings here. They're just not reported. Didn't I bring that up last time, Dave?
Sounded like
I was like, there actually are lots of reports here, just nobody bothers to tell the BFRO. Yeah. Hauser said, we take reports in here almost every week. And this is all over Montana, Georgetown Lake, Anaconda. People have been having experiences down there for years. Anaconda is like near me. Glacier Park has a lot of sightings up there. The BFRO received a report from a witness who was riding a snowmobile in Jefferson County on March 9th, 2019. The witness posted the following description. I was up snowmobiling in the Elkhorns and I saw a very tall creature about 200 yards away. I'd say the shoulders had to be 5 feet wide and it was probably 9 feet tall. I watched it for a minute, then I got freaked out and left. The sightings occurred around 12 noon and 2 other witnesses were present. In a follow-up on the report, investigators learned that the creature had, quote, very dark charcoal or deep gray to black hair. The witness did not see any facial features, but noticed large biceps. After about a minute of observation, the witness and his friends left the scene. When they passed by the spot again several hours later, the creature was gone. On June 12, 2019, at 12:35 p.m., a motorist driving up Crane Mountain Road in Flathead County saw a large black creature run up the side of a mountain. The witness first thought it was a bear and pulled out to get a better look. According to the BFRO report, quote, I looked up to see a bipedal creature, or whatever it was, taking large strides up the steep incline up the hill. After 70 yards, it stopped and looked at me, then continued up the mountain out of sight. It was completely covered in jet black hair, and when the sun hit its hair, it shined a brass or copper color. When BFRO investigators Caitlin and Thomas Ertz followed up with the witness, they learned that he had returned to the location the following day and attempted to make a cast of tracks found in the area. The follow-up report on the BFRO website notes, cast was not recoverable as it broke into many pieces when attempting to retrieve it. He only was able to cast one track. He brought his girlfriend up, and there appeared to be 2 sets of tracks, one slightly bigger than his 12 boot size, and another quite a bit larger. He did not have a measurement of either. The witness took the Ertzes to the exact location of his sighting, and the investigators noticed an abundance of edible plants in the area, including wild strawberries, blackberries, huckleberries, morel mushrooms, and more. A nearby creek is a source of fresh water. The witness stressed to the investigators how impressed he was at the creature's easy movements, noting that it took the thing less than 10 seconds to climb the steep embankment. The witness is extremely uncomfortable being back at the location of his sighting. A truck driver traveling in Mineral County on Interstate 90 near Lookout Pass in the Bitterroot Range, hey, that's right next to me, saw a Bigfoot standing on the backside of a concrete barrier. It was 4:30 a.m., April 2020, when the incident occurred. Nothing better to do at 4:30 in the morning than stand there and watch trucks go by. Sure. He said the sighting lasted only 5 to 10 seconds, but the creature was illuminated by the truck's high beams. The creature's hair was long and reddish-brown in color. According to the witness, an avid hunter and outdoorsman, the Bigfoot moved extremely fast and was quickly out of sight. The witness reported his sighting to the BFRO in June 2020. Anyway, before we get over to the little people, report some updates on a show I did a couple weeks ago with Iron Dogger, where the Giant's Door in this rock mountain over on the coast of Oregon was blowing up the internet. because the guy said he saw this rock door open and a giant go in it and close it.
That thing was open. It opened completely up, and then it closed back up. And there's a little slot in it right up there. You can see that little slot where it looked like somebody was staring out of.
And everybody thought he was crazy. And he got off the social network and didn't post anything anymore.
White trucks, no license plate.
So somebody that I know that was right next door to it basically drove over there and filmed it from below it and everything. And yeah, we know exactly where it is. And then subsequent to that, somebody else went and actually climbed up and rappelled down from the top. And so they were swinging in front of this gigantic stone door. And they went knock, knock, knock on it. And they videotaped that. And guess what? Sounds hollow. And then somebody else tried to climb up from down below, which seemed like an insane idea to start with. But then when he gets up there and he starts filming the slope that he just climbed up, you're like, yeah, okay, you're crazy. This is super steep and it's all covered with plants and moss that's wet and slippery. You're totally asking for it. And he got up close to the base of the door before he kind of thought the better of it and went, I don't think I can go any further up without mountaineering equipment. But somebody else has been up here. Look, there's a track. And he puts his foot in this track, which is about 30 inches long and 15 inches wide and sunk about 3 inches into the ground.
Made it up that. I'm gonna go up a little bit further, see what all I can find. I'm almost, I think, to the face. If you look, right down there is people. So I'm gonna head up and see what all I got going on here. A little trail up. Alright, so I'm on the other side of the face. Here it is. That's oh, here it is. Right there. Right behind me. That's how far down I am. That's what I got to cross to get back. Alright, so I just made it up more. It's literally right there. I don't know if I'm going to go the rest of the way without gear. But somebody's made it up as far as I have. Because here's some footprints. I mean, they're pretty big footprints, like in holes. Like that one's way bigger than my foot. Like, but this is it for all its glory. Back down to the bottom.
And I'm going, okay, are you sure there's not giants using this door? Because what the hell left that track up there? Nobody in their right mind would be climbing up there. Nobody has a 30-inch foot that's 15 inches wide either, by the way. So extremely creepy. Okay, so the obligatory giant updates. Little people in Montana. Ooh. The Little People of the Pryor Mountains. Pryor Mountains are a mountain range that stretches through Carbon and Bighorn counties south of Billings. So this is right kind of on the border between Montana and Wyoming. The range is primarily on the Crow Reservation and in the Custer National Forest, and we've all heard that name Custer before. Yeah, happened right near there. With portions of it on private land. The mountains are deeply cut by numerous rugged limestone canyons, and the south and west slopes rise gradually from the prairie to subalpine prairie plateaus, peaking at over 8,700 feet elevation. Pryors are considered a botanical hotspot because of the rich range of plant species found there. Nearly 1,000 species of plants have been identified to date, including 40% of all the plant species that grow in the entire state of Montana, and numerous rare and sensitive plants. Wildlife is abundant in the range with bighorn sheep, mule deer, many species of birds, bats, and numerous other mammals. Archaeologists date human presence in the mountains from at least 10 to 12,000 years ago. The Crow Nation considers the Pryor Mountains sacred, in part because it's the territory of the Little People. According to the Crow, the Little People carved the petroglyphs that can be found in the Pryor Mountains. Although many of the region's tales of Little People are centered on the Pryor Mountains, the stories aren't limited to the range or to the Crow tribe specifically. According to the traditions of numerous native peoples in the region, Montana and some of the surrounding territory was once home to a tribe of powerful Little People, and some believe the little ones still live in some of the state's sacred places. Yeah, well, I'll vouch for that. I found their moccasin tracks up here, so yeah, they're still around. Little People are typically described as looking like humans for the most part, with the exception of their small size. Views of the natures of the Little People vary by tribe. Nez Perce said the little ones lived deep in the woods and could make themselves invisible by rubbing themselves with certain types of grass. The Shoshone lore says the Little People were vicious warriors and tricksters. Bad fortune was often blamed on them. If a man suffered an injury or if his horse went lame, it might be due to the Little People and their invisible arrows. According to the Flathead, who lived north of me, the first inhabitants of their territory were a race of dwarves who stood about 3 feet tall. They looked like natives, but their skin was very dark. The Flathead said that the Little People owned herds of tiny horses that also stood about 3 feet in height. Rather than use the animals for riding, the Little People used the small horses as a food source during the winter months. So they got bonsai horses. Okay. Some of the Flatheads believed the Little People were crowded out and pushed high into the mountains before they completely vanished. The dwarves were very powerful, and the Flatheads believed that one who obtained a dwarf as his guardian was very fortunate. One person who received such power was a man named Charlie Gabe. Gabe was a medicine man of the Kalispel tribe who lived on the Flathead Reservation. Gabe passed away in the winter in 1936 and 37, but his power has long been remembered. Gabe became friends with Harry Hulbert Turney High, an American anthropologist and author. For some unknown reason, Charlie Gabe shared his story of his medicine power with Turney High. Sharing such a story is rare. Accounts of obtaining spirit power are often deeply personal, and many believe that sharing information about the source of one's power will weaken it. Gabe's story is recounted in Ella Clark's Indian Legends from the Northern Rockies. Now, according to Gabe, he grew up very poor, living among the Flatheads. When he was 14 years old, Gabe sought his medicine power. He fasted and climbed high into the mountains to seek a vision. Gabe was a young man who wanted unusual power, so he climbed much higher than most would dare to go. Eventually, he started seeing indications that he was on the right track, signs and symbols that he understood as indications to continue his trek. Near exhaustion, he found a large hole and peered inside, where he saw the Little People were preparing a dance. At first, Charlie went unnoticed, but when the Little People were finally ready to dance, the chief acknowledged the boy and invited him to come and dance with them. Charlie and the Little People danced all night and then slept through the day. This was repeated until they had danced 4 nights and rested 4 days. At that point, Charlie knew that his time on the mountain was done. Before he left, he grabbed one of the Little People to take back with him. The little man escaped, but Charlie caught him again. This happened again and again. After the 4th time the young man caught the dwarf, the little man said to him, "You captured me. Well, you must now keep me and feed me for 4 years. Then you must take me back to my people and free me. When that time comes, I will tell you something good." So for 4 years, Charlie Gabe kept the little man hidden, feeding him the best food he could find. When the time had passed, he carried the dwarf back up the mountains to his people. "I've been your guest for 4 years now," said the dwarf. "From now on, when you're in trouble or when you need anything, think hard about me. I will come to your aid. You need not suffer danger anymore. Also, I will give you my power whenever you want to help someone else." True to his promise, the little man granted Charlie Gabe power and went on to be a renowned medicine man, revered by both the Kalispels and the Flathead tribes. Clark's book mentions several tales of the Little People. One Flathead reports some of the traditional beliefs. In the old days, many dwarves lived around Rosebud Lake. It used to be surrounded by dense forest with much underbrush. Trees and bushes were so thick that people could get through them only with difficulty. That's the kind of place the little dwarves like. In the evening, my family would sometimes hear sticks beating against the trunks of trees. My grandparents would say, "The dwarves are hitting the trees." We children would be afraid. Descriptions of the little people were varied. Some said they wore brown suits and pointed brown caps. Sasquatch researchers will no doubt note the curious similarities between some of the little people lore and Bigfoot reports. The sagittal crest that is often reported in Bigfoot sightings could to some appear to be a pointed hat. Additionally, stories of the little people beating sticks against tree trunks harkens to the reports of Bigfoot wood knocks, believed to be produced by the creatures striking trees with large pieces of wood. According to native lore, the little people were able to move up and down trees quickly, and they moved head first with their feet on the underside of the branches. Despite the odd movement, their caps always remained on their heads. Stories also reported that the dwarves would cry out at night, a long, continuous wailing sound. Again, this harkens to Bigfoot accounts and some of the vocalizations the creatures make. There are, of course, variations in the description of the region's little people. Some sources say the dwarves were small humans who dressed in all red. Another type of dwarf in the region were said to be the size of small boys. They lived in cliffs and rocky areas of the mountains, dressed in skins, and carried small bows and arrows. They were said to shout at hunters and to lead them astray. The Shoshone called the little people the Narumbi and said they often struck at night, killing horses by ripping out their hearts and stealing children from camps. During their epic journey in 1804, Lewis and Clark spent some time with a band of Sioux on the Vermilion River in what is now modern-day South Dakota. While visiting the tribe, the expedition heard tales of the little people who lived in the region. Lewis mentioned the creatures in his journal, knowing that he was told that they were little devils, about 18 inches in height with large heads. And that is the description of the Narumbi. Just a side note here, my current Bigfoot research partner, Johnny, who hasn't seen a Bigfoot yet, has seen the little people. And he said they dressed in just traditional clothes. He saw 3 of them walk across the road. And they're all about 18 inches to 2 feet tall, dressed in buckskins with braided hair. And he said he didn't know what he was thinking that he was going to see, like they were going to be wearing modern clothes or something. But no, they're old-fashioned buckskins with braided hair. So according to the Sioux, the little people were constantly alert to any intrusions on their territory. They were capable of firing long arrows with very sharp heads at a great distance. One traditional tale told of a band of 350 warriors who went too close to one of the little people's mounts late one night. The band of warriors were almost completely wiped out, and those that did survive were crippled for life. And there was 11 of them that survived it and walked away. The rest of them were all killed, and all their horses were killed. That's according to the Crow and the Sioux. The Crow tribe has long had a special relationship with the little people. According to the tribe's lore, the ferocious dwarves could be dangerous, but could also impart spiritual wisdom and medicine power upon those who were favored. The little people were also seen as protectors. In the days of intertribal warfare, the little people would ambush war parties of Crow enemies. The traditional Crow description of the little people differs from other tribes in the region. According to Crow, the dwarves are about 18 inches tall with large, nearly round bellies. They're said to be incredibly strong, but their arms and legs are short. The little people are said to be fierce warriors who feed mainly on meat. Their mouths are full of many sharp canine-like teeth. The Crow said that the little people made arrowheads out of stone. This has always been a curious bit of information because the Crow themselves made their arrowheads out of bone. And that description matches exactly what Johnny saw, and it also matches Pedro, the mummy from the San Pedro Mountains that we'll get to here later on. The Crow story of Lost Boy mentions a dwarf killing a full-grown elk and carrying it off simply by tossing the animal's head over his shoulder. The story of Lost Boy, also called Burnt Face, is an interesting tale since it indicates the power of the little people to bestow blessings. It begins when a young Crow boy falls into a bonfire, which results in his face being horribly scarred. As a result, he's given the name Burnt Face. Burnt Face stays behind when his people follow the buffalo north. He builds a Sundance Lodge, and during the ritual, little people appear. They heal the young man's scarred face and tell him where to find his people. They also bless him with healing powers. The most significant story involving the Crow's interaction with the little people comes from one of the tribe's most famous leader, Plenty Coup. Oh, I love this story. When the future chief was only 9 years old, he learned that his older brother had been killed by Lakota warriors. And, of course, that's the Sioux. Mourning the loss of his brother, the young boy determined that he would need to go on a quest and find a way to avenge his sibling's death. He took a sweat bath and began to fast. Slipping away from the village, he climbed into the nearby hills where he fasted for 2 more days and 2 more nights. Despite his ritual, he had no vision, so he returned to his people and fell asleep in his father's lodge. However, on the 4th night, the boy heard a voice in his sleep telling him that he did not go to the right mountain. As the village prepared to move to the Little Rockies, Plenty Coups prepared himself for a different journey. He climbed near the south side of 2 buttes and prepared his ceremony, burning a root known as Ise and rubbing his body with sweet sage. Under the hot sun, the boy walked to the top of the mountain, asking for spiritual help. Still receiving no answer and weak from fasting and the heat of the sun, the boy finally lay down. When he woke, the stars were out, and he heard his name called from behind him. The voice told Plenty Coups that they wanted him, and the boy understood the spirits wanted to see him. He felt rather than saw the guide that had been sent, and he stood and walked east until he came to a lodge. Entering the lodge, Plenty Coups discovered a circle of old warriors, sitting together, counting coup. The lodge was full of powerful warriors and the very forces of nature. They wondered why Plenty Coups had been brought to the lodge, and they expressed the boy did not belong there. Others, however, made room for the young boy to join them. When he sat down, he realized who had welcomed him to sit with them. He recounted in the book Plenty Coups, Chief of the Crow. I looked into his eyes. He was a dwarf person, chief of the little people who lived in Medicine Rock, which you can almost see from here, and who made the stone arrow points. I now saw that all on my side were the same as he, that all were dwarves, not tall as my knee. The dwarf chief demanded that the young boy count coup, and counting coup in this context is the recall of acts of bravery performed by the subject. But the young crow were well aware that he had not done any great deeds to recall. The dwarf demanded again that the boy place a feather down, and when the young man did so, the dwarf recanted a great deed, one that Plenty Coups would perform in the future. This was repeated with a second deed, at which point those in the lodge agreed that no one could do better than the reported deeds. Plenty Coups recalled the words of the dwarf chief. Quote, he will be a chief. I can give him nothing. He already possesses the power to become great if he will use it. Let him cultivate his senses. Let him use the powers which Abat-Dat-Adah has given him, and he will go far. The difference between men grows out of the use or non-use of what was given to them in the first place. Plenty Coups, we the dwarfs, the little people, have adopted you and will be your helpers throughout your life on this world. We have no medicine bundle for you. They are cumbersome things at best and are often in a warrior's way. Instead, we offer you advice, so listen. In you, as in all men, are natural powers. You have a will. Learn to use it. Make it work for you. Sharpen your senses as you sharpen your knife. Remember, the wolf smells better than you do because he has learned to depend on his nose. It tells him every secret the wind carry because he uses it all the time, and it makes it work for him.
Thank you, Super Duke, for another great cryptid report, and happy birthday to you, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
We got Mr. Rod Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms, YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter, #SpacedOutRadio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyrighted by Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home.
I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. And soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. That was fun times.
Thanks for the happy birthdays in the chat room, everyone. Sorry I couldn't get to the rest of the story about Plentycoo, and it's the best part of it is when he gets to be an older guy and he's already famous and he's one of the leaders of his tribe, and he's on this battlefield, and him and this other tribe, these two tribes are just having this massive battle. I mean, a lot of people there, and he gets surrounded by the other tribe, and they are going to kill his ass, no doubt about it. And right in the plain view of his tribe and the other tribe, guess who shows up and saves him? The little people. And they carved a path right out of there for him to make a getaway. So at that point, you got both tribes reporting it. What are you supposed to do with something like that?
Well, I don't know.
The ones that couldn't stand him are going like, yeah, well, we would have killed him too if those little people hadn't showed up and saved his ass. You know? So what motivation do they have to make up a story like that? And the guys who are on his side is like, hey, we told you he was friends with the little people. They saved them. You know, see, they showed up.
What am I doing here, buddy? That's awesome, Super D.
Man, speaking of awesome, everybody seems to be enjoying having the cryptid report on my channel now. Getting a lot of positive comments out of it, so appreciate you letting me repost them over there. It's something a little bit different from my channel also than what I usually do.
Are they calling you Super Duke?
Yeah, you got that started. It's like all over the damn place now.
Good. What we need.
If there hadn't already been a Super Dave Osborne, I'd call you Super Dave, just in retaliation.
I know.
Do you remember Super Dave?
Oh, hell yeah.
Freaking love Super Dave. He was awesome. Lordy. Well, let me go here. You guys, love you. I'll see you over on my channel on Sunday, I guess, or tomorrow if I get this documentary put together fast enough. Dave, I'll send you that email. Like I said, it's 2 short paragraphs. It would take you 5 minutes to record it.
When do you need them, Duke?
Well, I needed it tonight, but it didn't get here, so ASAP. Otherwise, I won't be able to put it out tomorrow. It'll take too long to edit.
Okay.
They can't record it tonight, and I don't know when you're going to get a chance, but, you know.
Not get a chance until tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah. Well, at least I could have it out by Sunday then. Otherwise, it's, you know, I don't know when this other guy's going to get anything done. He's having issues. So, all right, you guys, love y'all. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you again next Tuesday. And for those of you that donated, and to you, Dave, especially, thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Love y'all.
You're Duke-alicious to us, man.
Wait till you guys get to see my documentary, then you're really going to be like digging it. So
you're all Duke-alicious. Pretty soon, Beyonce will have a song about you.
God. Yeah, and just remember, everybody, don't hug the Wookiees, and Bigfoot's coming. Gonna get you.
All right, buddy. Take care. All right. Birthday Duke right there. Don't get much more nicer than some super duking on Super Duke's birthday. Sure you all would agree.
When the moon hangs high on the breast of the lake and the bite of the wind is like a slap in the face, a legend of horror lurks in the haze. It's Bigfoot. A giant of a creature, all covered with hair, as tall as a timber and strong as a bear. Y'all better not go walking out there with Bigfoot. about this big hairy man that walks all alone. A mountain monster 10 feet tall called Bigfoot. From the tales of the traders and trappers to the image on Indian walls. From the Bear Paw Mountains of Montana to the signs of the Great Shastas. From the Flatheads to Blackfeet and the Shoshones, he must have seen them all. And when the sun goes down in the northwest woods, if you listen, you can hear him call. Bigfoot's coming, gonna get you, gonna get you. Bigfoot's coming, so you better watch out. Lock your doors and bolt your windows. Bigfoot's on the prowl. Bigfoot's coming, gonna get you, gonna get you.